Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into a really fascinating narrative, one that perfectly captures the tension between formal education, raw talent, and human character. I mean, have you ever caught yourself wondering what truly defines success these days? Is it just that string of prestigious letters after your name, or is it something way deeper, something much harder to just quantify? Well, we are going to explore a powerful story out of the village of Mangalpur that pits two wildly different kinds of education right against each other. It's an absolutely compelling look at human nature, status anxiety, and what real competence actually looks like in a world that's, frankly, completely obsessed with credentials. So, does a formal degree matter more than raw talent? This is the ultimate backdrop for our story about these two brothers. Look, we live in a society dealing with massive credential inflation, right? We literally use degrees as this quick societal shortcut to measure someone's worth, their capability, their smarts, and, often entirely incorrectly, their character. It's a huge cognitive bias we all fall into. But as we're going to see today, a piece of paper doesn't even come close to telling the whole story. In fact, leaning entirely on external validation can sometimes mask some pretty profound insecurities and, honestly, some severe character flaws. All right, moving into section 1, a mother's difficult choice. The story kicks off with a really harsh economic reality for a widowed mother named Savita. Suddenly, she's the sole provider, and she realizes the money simply isn't there to send both her sons to college. It's a tough spot. Advised by a local village elder named Sridhar, she has to make a highly calculated and pretty brutal decision about where to put her limited resources, relying entirely on her son's academic track records. Talk about the ultimate zero-sum game, right? One child's advancement comes at the direct, unavoidable cost of the others. And this stark choice draws a massive dividing line between the two brothers. Manav, the older, academically gifted brother, gets the golden ticket. He's sent to the city for a formal college education. Meanwhile, Atul, who's described as just an average student, stays back in the village. He's put into a traditional apprenticeship under Haria Halwai, the local sweet maker. Now, what's absolutely crucial to notice here is Atul's reaction. He takes this path without a single ounce of resentment. He totally gets the family's harsh financial reality, actively choosing duty to his family over his own personal entitlement. It's a really powerful moment. Let's jump to section 2, two very different paths. Over just a short period, you see their trajectories completely split off from one another. We're looking at the immediate societal rewards of a formal degree going head-to-head with the slow burn of a local apprenticeship. Just think about the sheer speed of Manav's corporate climb here. It perfectly highlights that rapid payoff of formal schooling. In year 1, their paths diverge. By year 3, Manav lands a highly lucrative spot in a massive 5-star food chain. And just months after that, boom, promoted to senior manager. He suddenly has the financial power to move his entire family, including his mother and Atul, straight out of the village and into the city. On paper, Manav is the absolute pinnacle of modern white-collar success. But then, look at the sharp contrast in Atul's path. While Manav was out there collecting flashy titles and corporate promotions, Atul was quietly grinding in the trenches, picking up highly specialized blue-collar skills. He didn't get the luxury of a nice, sterile classroom or a curated syllabus. Nope. He had a boiling hot kitchen, brutally long hours, and the intense, relentless observation of a seasoned local expert. He completely mastered the culinary arts through pure, unfiltered repetition. He was building this invisible but rock-solid foundation of actual competence. Which brings us to section 3, the boss comes to dinner. Now the real turning point arrives when Manav's two distinct worlds finally collide. He invites his 5-star boss over for dinner to celebrate his success, right? But then, an unexpected curveball. Their mother, Savita, falls too ill to cook. And this is exactly where all that underlying psychological tension just breaks the surface. Atul, being the good guy he is, eagerly steps up to help his brother, using his years of kitchen training to prepare the meal. But instead of showing gratitude, Manav gets hit with massive status anxiety. He's not even worried about how the food will taste. He's literally terrified of how his uneducated, blue-collar brother is going to reflect on his carefully curated, high-status image. Just listen to what Manav actually tells his brother here. Stay inside. What will the boss think of how my brother is dressed? He literally hides him away. He's treating his own flesh and blood like a dirty secret just to impress his boss. It is such a revealing moment about the human ego. Manav's expensive formal education got him a great job and a fancy title, sure, but it clearly left him with this incredibly fragile sense of self. His whole identity is so wrapped up in that external validation that he's deeply ashamed of his own roots and the very family that supported him along the way. But here's the thing about raw talent. You just can't suppress it. Even hidden in the background, Atul's skill shines through. The boss walks in and is met with this absolutely impeccable setup. The forks, the knives, the tablecloth, everything is flawlessly arranged. It's professional grade, perfectly mirroring the exacting standards of the five-star restaurant itself. And remember, Atul didn't learn this from some expensive textbook. He learned it from years of uncompromising attention to detail back in that hot village kitchen. It turns out, real, hard-earned competence is just impossible to fake. So the boss is absolutely stunned. This is amazing. Who made this? He instantly recognizes the high level of execution. But you've got to pay close attention to Manav's reaction. Even with his boss actively praising the work, Manav tries to shoot it down. He was just a servant at a small sweet shop. He deliberately tries to minimize Atul's talent, weaponizing his lack of formal training and his past blue-collar status. Honestly, it's textbook gatekeeping. Manav is desperately trying to protect his elite status by insisting that only people with degrees deserve a seat at the table, totally ignoring the objective quality of the actual work sitting right in front of them. All right, moving into section 4. Jealousy leads to sabotage. Thankfully, the boss is a true professional. He doesn't care that Atul doesn't have a degree. He sees pure, undeniable talent and immediately offers him a trial run for a head chef position. But this is where things get wild. This perceived threat to the social hierarchy triggers a shocking, calculated betrayal from Manav. Terrified that his uneducated brother might suddenly step into his high-status world, Manav actually uses his corporate authority to orchestrate a plot to ruin his brother's big break. He secretly calls ahead to the restaurant and orders the current chef to sabotage Atul's test dish with extra salt and spice. It's literally a primal defense mechanism disguised as a corporate strategy. He is entirely willing to destroy his brother's future just to protect his own ego. But thank goodness for their mother, right? Savita becomes the ultimate moral arbiter here, stepping in to break this chain of unfairness. She actually overhears Manav's malicious phone call, and instead of just staying quiet to protect her so-called successful son, she instantly contacts the boss to warn him. This intervention is absolutely critical. It ensures that Atul's raw talent is going to be judged purely on its own merits, entirely free from all that toxic corporate sabotage. Armed with this warning, the boss catches the complicit chef red-handed and fires him on the spot. And this perfectly illustrates what the free market actually values. When Atul finally presents his dish, a traditional dal-bati churma but upgraded with an elegant Italian twist and a really distinct mint flavor, the boss is just blown away. A formal culinary degree? The boss couldn't care less. What scored the absolute highest for him was Atul's innovation, the execution, and the undeniable quality of the food. It's a fantastic reminder that, at the end of the day, the market doesn't really care about your paper certificate. It cares about the tangible value you can provide. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, Forgiveness and Final Lessons. With the sabotage out in the open and Atul's talent fully validated, we finally get to see the real psychological fallout. Confronted by the boss and his incredibly disappointed family, Manav completely breaks down and confesses, "I didn't want you to have my money and lifestyle. I wanted you to stay beneath me." Wow, the crucial point is revealed right there. Manav's highly expensive, formal education didn't teach him anything about inner security, empathy, or true leadership. What it did was breed a deep-seated professional jealousy and a frankly horrifying sense of superiority over his own brother. His entire identity was built on being better than Atul, and the second that was threatened, he just completely crumbled. Naturally, the boss is more than ready to fire Manav right then and there for his blatantly unethical behavior. But look at what Atul does next. It is a profound demonstration of what true, unassailable security looks like. The uneducated, blue-collar brother, the guy who was literally just the target of active corporate sabotage, steps in and begs the boss not to fire Manav. He doesn't need to destroy his brother to prove his own worth. Atul uses his newfound leverage not for revenge, but to extend pure grace, telling the boss that Manav really isn't bad at heart. And that incredible display of empathy leads to one pivotal outcome, one final chance. The boss actually spares Manav's job. But let's be real, he definitely doesn't do it because of Manav's prestigious degree or his so-called managerial skills. He does it because he is deeply moved by the stark, undeniable contrast in character between these two men. Atul's compassion is literally the only reason Manav's career survives the day. So, this paradox brings us to our big final takeaway. When we map out the character traits we've been analyzing today, it's pretty striking. Take Manav. He had all the traditional markers society tells as equal success, right? The formal education, the high status. Yet he was driven entirely by insecurity and jealousy, and he ended up completely dependent on someone else's mercy. Now, think about Atul. He had zero formal education and held a blue-collar status, yet he was driven by service, mastered an incredibly high-level skill, and ultimately had the psychological security to offer forgiveness. It forcefully proves that those traditional markers of success, yeah, they completely fail to predict actual human decency. Which leaves us with one final question for you to think about as you navigate your own life and career. In your pursuit of success, are you merely building a resume to protect a fragile ego like Manav, or are you quietly out there building real, unshakable character and an irreplaceable skill set in the trenches, just like Atul? We're going to leave you with that thought to ponder. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. Keep focusing on what truly matters beneath the surface, and we'll see you next time.